We understand that autism is a neurological condition. So sometimes it just means that they need to go to a quiet place where they can reset and restore. So sometimes at schools there are safe places where there are little tents set up with sensory friendly toys, sensory friendly textures, blankets, pillows, and just a nice comfy place where they could be quiet, be themselves, and wind down. Sometimes just once you see that they are starting to wind down, when they're revved, it could be really, really exhausting. So coming down, they may seem depleted. So an act of kindness, such as offering a glass of water or a nice warm hug, if they are prone to being touched, of course, you must know their language. Just even a nice comfy space for them to sit and talk would be really important. Allowing them to orient on a topic that they're familiar with, so something that they're passionate about, will help them change quite drastically. So for example, I remember when I was dealing with a situation where an autistic child had gotten quite aggressive, was screaming, throwing things around the room because they could not handle a math sum. The math sum was the trigger because math was scary for them. So the math sum was the same, perceived as the threat. So in order to avoid it, the behavior became aggressive. So in dealing with the situation, I just calmly sat to the side and waited for them to spiral down, because it eventually did. And they eventually just withdrew into a corner. I realized that they couldn't speak at that time, and I just said that. I just said, buddy, I get it. I know that you can't speak right now. I know that it's a little bit difficult, but just know that I'm here. And I won't leave. You have company, and you just do what you want to do. And for a while, there was some whimpering, and there was some crying, and there was some rocking, and so intermittently, I would just reassure that I was there, and I would just start talking about the weather. I would start talking about the weather. I would start talking about cars. I would start talking about just random things until I saw that there was a shift in body language, and I said, okay, I think I've just made a connection. So then I just continued along that vein until I started seeing him nod. I started hearing him utter little signs of little sentiments of consent and acknowledgement. And then eventually they started talking about things of interest. And because of the categorical thinking, they were able to transition pretty quickly. And then once they were calm, we were able to discuss what happened, and I was able to reassure and deal with the sadness and guilt that occurred afterwards. So it's really important not to jump to conclusions that the behavior is meant to be aggressive, or is meant to be rude, or is meant to be disrespectful or oppositional, but to look at the meaning behind the behavior. Sometimes it looks like defiance, but it really is just difficulty with transition, or just feeling overwhelmed. To interact with, appreciate, accept, and love someone on the spectrum means to let them know that you get it and use the right language, whether it is verbal or nonverbal, and just to have that overall sense of connection.